Black owl, spear that sings, and rushing crow. You find yourself in this glade of sorts. The small trees surrounding this figure. The man in the skull mask. The embers in front of him glowing. As you enter, it becomes clear that in spite of the smell of pungent herbs, what's in front of him is not fire. You hear him chanting. It puts your teeth on edge, sends shivers down your spine. An unnatural cadence. Words you don't know. Please roll for initiative. Spear that sings, you were rushing into this clearing. You were the first in and you were the first to act.
He will, I think, hesitate. This is not his usual sort of foe. He usually kills deer and rabbits. And he just fought a man, and that's weighing heavily on him, I think. And now he's unsure, and he sees this druid or whatever he is with corrupt powers, and he's not sure what to do. And I think he looks at Black Owl for a second. He's still in his cougar form. He'll look in that direction, and then the beast will be like, kill, 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 and he'll move forward and try and kill.
Yeah, I think there'd be just the slightest nod of Black Owl. He's so entranced by what's happening in the evil of it that all he can muster is just the tiniest little head tilt of yes, go.
If you're going to try and close the distance, I need you to roll a dexterity check. As the ground beneath you begins to shake, rumble, and writhe, roots and vines spring up from it, intended to trip you.
I get 13.
Your DC is 15 for this. So you will fall prone as these spring up on you. Anyone else who is going to move their full speed will also need to make a dexterity check. If you would like a spear that sings, you could move half speed.
Yeah, I guess I better. I think that he wouldn't think that way. He's not trying to be careful. But maybe a cougar is just naturally careful and inclined to move in the safest way. So yeah, I'll move half speed, which I think is still 20. But I probably won't get all the way there, and he'll snarl.
Yeah, he's about 40 feet from the three of you, where he stands at his makeshift altar. Rushing Crow.
Rushing Crow will live up to his name, and he will rush in after Spear that sinks. He's not going to move at half speed. He is just going to barrel in, leaping over these roots.
And please make that dexterity check.
It was in 18.
You are able to move your full speed towards this druid. How fast are you?
That's a good question. I believe it's just 30.
That puts you 10 feet from him. At this range, you can see the altar ahead of you. You can smell the sharp, pungent odor of whatever herbs are burning beneath it. But on top of it, there are these red crystals which have a dull glow.
I think the sickly sweet smell of these burning herbs and things would probably grind him to more of a halt where he is, as he, I imagine, kind of struggles to breathe a little bit as the smell hits him. That's all I'm going to do in my turn.
The druid raises his hands up, both of them. You cannot see his eyes, but you can feel them sweeping across you. First at you, Rushing Crow, then Spear That Sings, and finally Black Owl. His voice gets louder and louder in his chant, and he claps his hands together. There's a noise like thunder. The smell of the herbs overwhelms all three of you. And then the world goes dark. She who stands fast. You remember the smell, the same smell that has just overwhelmed these three. The last thing in your memory is the sight of these glowing crystals. You hear a voice in your head. Perhaps it is familiar. You think you have come to your senses. But when you look up, you see a sky painted with brilliant colors, pierced by unfamiliar stars. There's a moon passing overhead that you do not know. It moves swifter than it needs to, as if each night might take but a moment. This place you found yourself in is almost like home, except the colors are different, more vivid. The water runs with the same colors which are reflected in the sky. You walk along next to a stream. It is peaceful here, strangely peaceful. And then you see a figure up ahead, a woman. She turns, and you see the smiling face of your mother. And then it is obscured by dark spirits which swirl about her. First one, then the other, pouring in and out of her nose and mouth and eyes. And through it all, she smiles at you. Says, stands fast. Welcome. I have been waiting for you.
Mother, is that really you?
Of course it is, my child.
But you've been gone so long. And what are these spirits? Mother, what are you doing?
I am strong. I am stronger than I have ever been, daughter. Here, I can do anything. These spirits guide me. They give me their power, and in return, I give them the ability to speak and to see.
But at what cost do you get this power?
What cost would it matter to you? Am I not your mother? Have you not missed me?
I have. But there's something wrong. This power you're taking, it's wrong. It goes against the world, the nature. This cannot be good.
All spirits come from the first world. I have merely allowed these, which were barred from the second world, to use me as a conduit. All is well, child. You have much to learn. Come, and I will teach you.
Stands Fast would approach cautiously, I think, and she wouldn't close the distance, but she would come closer and then pause. No, I fear the price is too much. I don't believe you know what you are doing.
Would you stand against me? I did not name you Stands Fast for nothing. But I did not think it to be against your own mother.
Stands Fast looks very conflicted at this. I did not think my mother would choose this. For power?
I can teach you. I can show you there is much to learn, much to do, much to change. Here, anything you wish could come true. And we have power here. Power to affect many others.
No. No, I will not. I will not stand with you. This is not the way. You have strayed, and I will not follow you.
My daughter, you wound my heart. Please, at least a last embrace for your mother.
Stands Fast would hesitantly step forward, and then she would stop, and her spine would go erect. And she would say, "No, I will not. I cannot." And she would turn and walk away.
You turn on your heel, and you hear a noise like mud squelching. There's an unearthly shriek. And as you look back over your shoulder, your mother is gone and something horrid is in her place. It leaps towards you. Black and scaly, claws and teeth, almost oozing shadow. And as it does, a great elk, shining in the light of the false moon, interposes himself. The beast, the creature, comes up against the elk, who lowers his horns, and the thing is driven away. You see this elk, and you see the shadow cast by these bright lights, and you recognize it. This is the spirit elk you have seen in your dreams.
I would incline my head. Oh, great one, thank you. You have saved me. What can I do for you?
Little sister, you have stood fast. You have showed strength and courage. Many are those who come to this place of dreams and who give in, who allow their fears to overwhelm them, their desires to take precedence. She who stands fast, for that is your name, you have done well.
I thank you. She nods.
I need nothing from you, child, but I offer you a gift. Take out your knife.
Stands fast does so, without hesitation.
Carve some of my antler. Take a piece for yourself.
At this, Stands fast would look a little bit shocked, but then again, not questioning, she would step towards the elk and tentatively reach up to a tiny spire, I guess they're called, sticking out, and looking at him in the face, she would take her knife to it, and she would looking into his face for like the go ahead, the it is all right. And
you will not hurt me, little one.
At that, she hesitates again, and then she cuts.
It's softer than it should be. Moves easily under your knife. And you have a small piece of antler that fits in the palm of your hand. The elk shakes his head, and you watch as it regrows, leaving him unharmed.
I thank you, Great Spirit.
That was not your mother, child. There are things here which can take the form of any creature, any spirit which ever was and ever will be. They lure you down the path of shadow. They devour your soul, your spirit, and your dreams. Take this antler, wear it around your neck, and you will see them for what they are.
She nods, and at that she would take her knife and make a strip from her tunic and cut a piece of leather that she could make into a cord and do exactly that. Wrap it around the antler and put it around her neck.
When you look up from your work, the elk is gone. And as you scan your eyes across this landscape, which is so familiar and yet so odd, you suddenly begin to see all the creatures for what they truly are. You see their spirit form, their true form, not how they present themselves to those who walk in these dreams. And you know that you will not be fooled again by a dream devourer. Rushing Crow. The smell of herbs is still in your nostrils when you open your eyes and you are seated on an island. It is as round as Sun Who Moves Swiftly would be were he high in the sky. But instead, you see the night sky that's teeming with stars you cannot recognize. The water around you swirls with patterns and colors, reflected in the sky above. The island is 10 strides across, made of pebbles and sand, smooth beneath your hands and feet. You look around, and you see something floating in the water. If you could walk across, it would be 50 paces away, if that.
He'll do so as he stands and looks around and takes stock of this alien sky above him, and his eyes fall on the object in the water. He'll tentatively start to walk towards it.
You begin to walk towards it, and your vision grows sharper, as if seeing with an eagle's eyes. It is your sister. It is Sighing Sky. She floats in the water, turns her face to you, and gives you a sad smile, and begins to sink.
I don't think there's any hesitation, even despite his deep-rooted fear. There's just a sibling familial reaction as he leaps forward to grasp in where she's submerged.
You will have to swim there.
Yeah, he will throw himself into the water and attempt
water is cold. It numbs your fingers and your feet, then your arms and your legs. There are bubbles just ahead, and a shadow that must be sighing sky beneath the surface. Can Rushing Crow swim?
I would imagine not very well. I'd imagine he learned as a child with the others, but ever since the kind of the accident, he's never been back in the water, so I don't think he's a competent swimmer.
Make an athletics check. See if you can reach sighing sky.
Free.
What was that again?
23, sorry.
Your love for your sister spurs you onward. You reach the place where her shadow sinks lower and lower. You dive beneath the small, colorful waves. And you break the surface again with your sister in your arms. But now you must swim back. Please make another check with disadvantage.
Natural 1.
Your sister weighs you down. She is pale, her lips tinged purple. She cannot help you. You begin to sink and to drown. You feel fear. It is overwhelming. Do you drop your sister?
Oh, that's a tough question. Yes. Well, as he takes in great lungfuls of water, and in his panic and flailing for the surface, he would more unintentionally, through the panic, lose his grip on her.
She begins to sink, the current starting to pull her away from you. You watch her dark hair floating in the water, her eyes closed, her chest neither rising nor falling. What do you do?
He has to break the surface and get air. He'll have to push himself upwards, gasping for breath. Sorry.
Without your sister in your arms, you can reach the surface, although you feel as though you are miles from the small island.
He would have to give one last attempt to at least look under the water to see if he can still see any sign of her.
You see her, drifting further from you, downstream and down towards the bottom. She must have swallowed water. She sinks as a stone.
Attempting to turn the fear into resolve. He has to at least try once again to go under the surface and attempt to reach her.
Please make another check.
He's 17 that time.
The water is chilling you to the very marrow of your bones. But you are with the current, and you are determined, and it is your sister. You reach her, limp and heavy as she is, and you begin to kick your way back to the surface. As you reach it, you hear a raven caw. You see it swooping overhead. It comes lower, skimming the surface of the water. It speaks to you. Take hold of my tail, brother.
Yeah, there's very little hesitation as he maneuvers the body of his sister over his shoulder and reaches up to grasp onto the bird's tail.
The raven carries you effortlessly, pulling you half from the water until only your sister's toes drag a trail across the surface of this river. He carries you past the island and to a shore lined with trees. He sets you and your sister down, and then pauses to preen his glossy black feathers. When you see his reflection in the water, you know this to be your raven, your spirit animal. He tilts his head to the side, looking at you in the way that birds do. Hops a little bit. Pecks idly at a pebble. You would have drowned.
Surely without your help I would have. My sister too.
What sister? Says the raven brother. And when you look for sighing sky, she is not there. It is only you.
You'll quickly stand up, look around, look to the skies above, and back to the spirit guide. She was here.
Cunning raven knows she was, but now she is not. Does cunning crow know such?
I do not. I do not understand.
You are not where you were. You are not where you want to be. You are here. Why are you here? Do you know?
Aye. You can probably feel that there's a prickling in the back of his brain as he tries to answer this question. But eventually the shoulders will slump as he can't form an answer and shake his head much like the bird does itself.
This place of dreams, it is not where you were. Here things are not as they seem. The worst dreams may come true. Or will they? Not if Cunning Raven is here. Take my feather, Rushing Crow. And he'll hold out a wing.
Kneel down beside the raises the hand up, raising it kind of over the wing, and seeing the feather kind of give off that blue, green, and black reflection, refraction of the light. He'll take it and gently pluck it.
You would have drowned, but now you cannot. Take the feather, wear it in your hair, and you will have a raven's wing. You will fly across the water as if it were ground. Cunning Raven has given you gift, little crow, says the tiny bird.
He'll do as he's bid and put the feather in the hair. Thank you, brother.
See that you are swift, little crow. You will need it. The raven will soar away, up into this sky that is dark and light all at the same time, almost as bright as day, in spite of the lack of sun. And you are left on the bank. Spear that sings. You awaken in a place of rock and tree. To your cougar eyes, the colors are brilliant, vibrant, breathtaking. You sniff the air, and you sense life. something worth hunting.
He'll sniff the air and begin to sort of prowl, his shoulders doing that thing that cats do, that only cats seem to be able to do, no matter their size. And he'll begin like stalking in that direction.
You move easily, quietly. And you see in the distance a small movement. Gray. A fox. The scent is unmistakable.
There are no small movements to a predator like a cougar, and he'll like notice his head will twitch in that direction. He'll like flatten his ears against his head and think for a second before trying to follow.
Yeah, make a stealth roll.
"20.
Yeah, you are completely unnoticed by this fox. It pauses, scratching at an ear with its back paw. Small ears swiveling, listening for predators but hearing none.
It's easy. It's always easy. Nothing is comparable to what Spear That Sings is." And he watches and like lowers himself down and gets ready to pounce.
It is simple. The thing does not see you coming and does not hear you coming. You catch it in your mouth, and it lets loose a single fox cry, almost human in its noise. Too human. The fox blood in your mouth does not taste like fox blood.
This conflict of what he as a person wants to do, which is drop this person, this fox, and see if they're okay, and what the cougar wants to do, which is rend and tear and eat. And those two things are like battling in his mind at the same time, and he's trying to figure out which one to do, and he struggles to make a decision. And so he just like stays there with it in its jaws, sort of breathing, but makes no move.
The thing lets out a whimper and wriggles uselessly in your jaws.
Eventually, and maybe it always does, but eventually the man wins out. But it feels closer every time that he has less and less sort of input on it. And he drops it and like takes some steps back, almost like a person who is shocked. Like it's not a normal thing for a cougar to do. And he'll like step back and look down at the thing and see what's happening. And he'll like nudge it with his nose.
You nudge it with your nose and step back to watch. And as you do, the fox begins to shift and change. It is not a fox. It is Silent Step. It is your wife.
He wants to scream, but he can't because he's a cougar. So that's this like roar. And he wants to change back into a man, and he's not able to. There's too much going on in his head, and he can't focus. And so he just like paces up and down. He's not sure what to do, and like nudges again, and like licks at the wound, and like tries to save her.
She's bleeding badly. You see your own tooth marks in her flesh. She will die. Surely she will die. She knows that death awaits her. And she looks to you and recognizes you.
He's never wanted to be a person more. He spends most of his time not being a person and wishing that he wasn't. And now, when it's like necessary, he can't shift. It's too much. His brain like can't handle it. His pulse is just like drumming, and he can't do anything about it. He just like watches, and then like closes his eyes and like grits his teeth, and tries to change back into a person.
You cannot. You cannot change back. And your wife looks at you as she holds a hand to her shoulder, the blood spilling out from between her fingers, and she reaches her other arm out to you. Says, please, please, my love, hold me just for a moment.
He wants to say that he will, and that he's sorry, and that he wishes he could do something, but all he can do is make stupid cat noises. He can't do anything else. And he thinks like if this is the cost, he would never change again. He would be a man forever. If it could save her now, but he doesn't know how to do that. And so he just roars, and moves close, and tries to help her.
She puts a hand up to your great cougar head, and then it falls limp, and her eyes close.
He like nudges and nudges, and like licks at the wound and nudges again, and will do that forever. He'll never stop. He like paces up and down, trying to change back into a person so he can do something about it, but he just can't, and it's more and more making him furious and terrified. He had thought many times about like what it would be like to not be a man, and now he hates it. Now it's a prison, and he can't do anything but pace.
You hear a yowl. You recognize the sound of another cougar, and a beast twice the size of yourself stalks forward and sniffs at the body of Silent Step.
And he will stand over it protectively, even in the face of this thing, and snarl and growl.
The cougar bares its teeth back at you, reaches out a massive paw, swats you on the nose, like a mother rebuking a cub. Your eyes fall upon this creature a second time, and you recognize it for what it is. This is the spirit animal, the cougar, the one who has gifted you with so much.
He's like shouting, help her, help her. but he's not. He's just making cat noises, and he wishes that he was shouting. As he stands, he doesn't move away from the body. He needs to protect her as far as he can, or as much as he's able to. And he looks imploringly at the cougar.
The great cougar mother looks down at you. She lays down next to the body of Silent Step, easily as long as your wife. And as she lays there, the body of your wife begins to fade. The blood disappears, the smell of it is gone from your nose. And it is as if nothing ever happened. The mother cougar growls at you and then yowls. Growl. You know what that means. It is a rebuke. It's a chastisement. The sound a mother makes to a cub who has wandered too far. Then she speaks to you. Come. Follow me.
He sniffs at the ground for signs of where his wife has gone. And then he shakes his head. Doesn't know what to do, so he follows.
She takes you to a high cliff. The pair of you moving easily among the rocks. You might say it's second nature, but for you it feels like first nature. This is your most comfortable form. This is where you want to belong, where it was. The top of the cliff, you can look down and you see a mother cougar with 3 cubs, a bear with her children. You see the parents and the children, the mothers, dozens of them. An eagle with her chicks. And the great mother cougar turns and looks at you and bats you upside the head again.
He snarls and makes a noise.
Protection should be your first instinct. That is what I have given you. The ability to protect those you love. To protect all that is dear to you. Is that what you do with my gift?
He shrugs his shoulders. Shakes his head.
You have much to learn. You are a great hunter, yes. But can you protect? Do you have the instinct that is necessary to understand the gift, to use it? Or will you seek freedom for yourself, feeling the power in your claws?
He's not sure. He thinks he wants to say that the lesson is clear. But he knows that, like, in practice, the decision is not always made with like a clean head. Often it's gray and confusing because it's not just his thoughts, it's the thoughts of an animal on top. And it's hard to remember who's who sometimes. But the lesson is clear, and he nods.
She reaches her paw out and touches you, paw to paw, velvet to velvet. And you begin to change back into a man. If she were on her hind legs, she would be several feet taller than you. She sits stock still as you come to your senses once more.
There are like tears in his eyes, and he looks around. Where is she? Where is she?
This is a place of dreams, where the things you fear most might come true. But that truth has not held today. It is not true for the second world, which you will return to in time. Your wife lives.
I think he takes like a shuddering breath and like falls down onto his knees. Like looks out over the cliff at all of the families, and breathes out.
You will lose yourself if you are not cautious. A cougar does not rush headlong. I have given you the ability to wait, to sense, to know, and the instinct to protect those near you. Use it.
I understand, Willie.
She tilts her head, looks down at you, and there's a low rumble. You think it's a growl, and then you realize it's a purr. She reaches her head out and licks your shoulder. The tongue is rough, and it seems to peel away some of your skin with it. It's painful. But when you look down, there is no wound, although you seem to have some sort of mark. She sits back down and looks at you thoughtfully. You must have enough courage to be a man. Not all the time, of course. But you were created as such, and as such, you should be. You are not cougar. You are not eagle. You are not bear. You are man. Remember that.
He puts a hand to the mark and kind of runs it over. I will. I'll remember.
Then go. Take my blessing and go. You will find your way. A cougar is never lost. And you watch as she jumps down from this cliff, seems hundreds of feet. She lands easily at the bottom and then disappears. Black Owl, when you open your eyes, you're not sure if you've opened them. There is utter darkness around you. Such silence. You wonder if you have been blinded. You wonder if your ears still work. But you can hear your breathing. And you think perhaps there might be some light in the distance.
There's this strange sensation that you only get in absolute quiet, where you begin to hear like all of your own bodily functions. You can like hear the blood rushing through your ears. You can like feel viscerally your own breath. Feel it like moving through your throat and hearing it with your own ears. There's this strange sort of vividness in the complete emptiness that the void represents. This strange dichotomy of nothing happening, but making you aware of everything that operates beneath the surface. And to like take a moment to like understand that, and through the confusion of not knowing where he is or why, we'll take notice of the light that seems to move through the void in the distance. And as if compelled, like he doesn't know where he is or what's happening, but he'll just see the light in the darkness, and some part of his soul will nudge him towards it.
You move towards the subtle glow. You think you might be imagining it at first. But as you walk, the ground completely smooth beneath your feet. You see in the distance a small fire. And as you grow closer, a single shadowy figure seated there.
He's felt this sort of feeling before, this feeling of being too far out from the known, out into the world of chaos, the world of darkness, uh, where nothing is certain. And he only managed to barely find the glimmering light before. He can't help but think back to his previous times, nearly losing himself. And though he doesn't feel that sort of panic that he did then, he can't help but make the parallel. He'll see the fire, the single light calling from the infinite black, uh, and reminisce of how it led him back before. And he wonders if somehow, without knowing, that he's found his way back out too far, that he's let his spirit, his ego, gain control of what he knows that he shouldn't do. But we'll see the light, and we'll see the person kneeling next to this fire, and will slowly begin to make his approach, hoping to call himself back from whatever uh, end of the world that he's found himself in.
The fire grows brighter, and you see there a familiar face. It is Smiles at Death, the spirit talker, the shaman who has taught you much of what you know. And he smiles at you. You are far from home, Black Owl.
The caution with which he approached the fire will melt away upon seeing his teacher's face into a warm but careful smile. Um, like drop down to one knee and like give a nod. Not out of submission, but out of respect to his teacher. Teacher, I fear I may have gone astray. Once again, found myself too far. Here you are again to call me back.
It seems a habit of yours. Why then have you come so far?
If you never walk into chaos, you can never make it into order. Though it's risky, some people must push themselves for the good of others. Make the unknown known. To bring it in to the fire, to spread the fire out so that the darkness may go away. I know you've warned me not to go too far, but I can't help. The boundary must be pushed if progress is to be made.
He gestures around him. What do you see?
The fire, the teacher, the warm light, myself, and nothing.
His eyebrows go up. Nothing. Are you certain?
Black Owl's eyebrows will like furrow at the words. His teacher plays these sorts of riddle games with him. He's done them before. There's always some secret lesson, some esoteric wisdom to take from it, but he's not able to find it in his mind at the time. He's either forgotten it or never learned it. And he'll like look around once again into the void that surrounds him with confusion.
Can you not see the river there? And the hills, and the sky? You are in a spirit realm. Surely you must see it and feel it.
Yeah, Black Owl's eyes will like once again scan into the oblivion as if by some magic he can see something that's not there. His eyes will like squint as if looking at some faraway thing, like focusing as if he believes enough that he can manifest to this vision he's supposed to have that his teacher is demanding of him.
You seem to have closed your mind, Black Owl.
To see the spirits in their world, it's a heavy burden. Sometimes it's easy to lose sight and the weight of it all, to feel crushed. I do not think that I've felt these things, but perhaps they've weighed on me without my knowledge. He'll say, like, trying to find any justification he can as to why he's failing in this moment to, like, follow his teacher's lesson.
It might also be it would not be an easy thing to bear, but it might also be that your mind has been closed for you. and that the spirits will be silent.
Let's like shake his head, like he doesn't understand. What do you mean?
It is rare. Perhaps once every 5 generations. But there are some who push too far and who are cut off. Whether a spirit has chosen to block them, to keep them from ever communing again, none could say. Or if perhaps they've overstretched their limits and permanently destroyed such bonds, none can say.
Black Owl is just like shaking his head as his teacher keeps talking, just like over and over again, in more like feverish and like frantic motions as the words are going through his ears. His face looks like he's like told that his like family has died. Uh, it's like that magnitude of terror. Just, no, no, no. It's temporary, right? This no, this can't be.
We could get it back for you. But it will not be an easy thing.
Like sigh, like partially out of relief and partially to like try to like quell like the frantic beating of his heart. His chest is like rising and falling with like alarming speed, as if like bordering on panic. Nothing worth it is ever easy. Whatever it takes, tell me, I will do it.
He holds out his hand, and it seems as if a sharp knife appears in it. Cut out my heart.
Black Owl's breath is still like shaky. He's having a hard time composing himself from these like rapid fire revelations that are being thrown at him. I'll like take a couple steps forward, just kind of with a shaky hand, grab the knife out of the hand of his teacher. Um, he's like having a hard time keeping it still. It's like jittering in his hand. His arm will resist any attempt to stop its motion. He'll just like look up and his eyes will meet his teacher. It's the only way. You're certain?
It is.
And you would throw away your own life for mine willingly.
Of course I would.
There's like some part of Black Owl's mind that's like nagging, like there's like the situation doesn't make sense. Like it's like screaming at him that there's like that there has to be something more to all this. But like the greater part of him like is so shaken by everything that he's been told so far that like the yelling falls upon his own deaf ears. He's unable to hear any call of warning, and like tears will begin to well up in his eyes. And with surprisingly little hesitation, beyond that, I'll like lunge forward and just like there's like a crunch as the knife will go in to his teacher's chest, and he'll just like look at him in the eyes as tears will start to flow. I'm sorry. I have to. I can't lose it.
The face is frozen in half smile, half pain. And then it begins to shift and change and turn to something dark inhuman, with claws and teeth, black scales. There's a laugh that's too human to come from this creature, low and ominous. And we will take a break, and then we'll roll for initiative when we come back.
Back in a few.
All right, everybody back?
Yep.
Okay, 1.
I'm back.
Okay, 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will get rolling when Chex gets back. Oh, Chex is back, just untangling cables. That's fair. All right, Black Owl, this thing begins to change in front of you, and you realize this is not the person you thought it was. This isn't even a person. And as he turns from the familiar face into some creature, the darkness around you fades and shimmers, and you see colors, bright and vibrant, unfamiliar. This is not home. This is indeed some other realm, some spirit plane, perhaps. You were fooled. And now you're in danger. It's your turn.
The like sorrow and conflict, the grief fighting against his own desperation, his own identity and ambition, will like fade into terror as he sees that these are not the results of his own practice, but the results of darker things, things that he's heard call before and barely managed not to answer, and now they've called again, and unbeknownst to him, he's walked right to them. And a terror will hold over him, not just in fear of losing his life, but a deeper, more existential terror at like knowing what he could do, knowing what he's capable of becoming, um, given the right circumstances. But I'll see this dark creature and know that at least for now, he must fight for his life, not to lose it in this moment, so that he might be able to redeem himself for the actions he's taken here. Um, he's going to like reach down deep into that place that he knows, the place that his teacher has taught him to look in darker times. And I don't know if I'm even able right now to cast spells or not, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, he'll like hold up a hand, just like instinctively, both hands, like dropping the knife that he used to stab what was just a moment ago his teacher. Um, if it's even still there. Uh, and this like kind of smoky fire will begin to take place. It's not as refined or as shaped as it was before. Rather than these like clean owl shaped sunset colored images, it's like this like just flickering, uh, angry, uh, flashing, bizarre shape. Um, muffled as his own spirit is muffled. He's not able to like properly shape it into like the majestic form that it should be. But either way, this creature will need to make a dexterity saving throw.
Um, that is 12.
That is just not enough, so it'll fail. This like as like misshapen and inglorious as it is, this like wreathing, lashing, angry fire will like wrap around this creature, singeing it as the power of the spirits take hold. This is sacred flame, so it's going to take 8 radiant damage as the fire descends on it. Like feel the heat from this fire, this holy fire that comes down. Uh, he doesn't normally feel heat, like it's not normally like flame. It's more of like this energy. The fact that it's like reacting in this way is like strange to him, and kind of heightens his fear even more as like his control over it becomes more tenuous.
You burn this creature. You can see some of its shadow shrinking away from your light. The plume of brightness catches the eye of a man who walks like a cougar. Spear that sings, your path has not been clear to you, and yet you have walked it unerringly. And now you see this brightness just ahead. You know what it is. You recognize Black Owl's magics, and you'll be there next round. But for now, it is the Dream Devourer's turn. It has these great claws, ooh, that was almost crit, and it strikes out at you, seeking to rend you with them. If I can find which, okay, sorry. You're gonna take 14 damage total, 7 from each of these claws as it rakes across your body, pulling at your arm and your chest. It burns, and it is a black shadow of a wound. The blood that oozes is thick. Black Owl, it's your turn.
I feel this intense pain, like it's like nothing he's felt. Not only a physical pain that burns his body, but like a deeper pain that like rends at his soul. And it's like hard to even like stand up still against this like incredible pain. Like he nearly buckles under it, falls to one knee for a short time, but knows that he must stand, he must fight, even if it's to the end, because there is no going back against such creatures as this. There's nothing you can do except cling desperately and hope. And he'll kind of bring back some of the resolve that he had lost before, his magic coming further under his control again, as he like desperately clings to whatever good spirits are left in him. And some of this like residual kind of like sparking angry fire that's still kind of like falling from the previous round will begin to like coalesce, the color becoming less fractured and more calm, the fire turning into a more smooth smoke, and it'll actually take the shape of himself, almost an identical twin form made of this energy, and he and this thing will both lift their spears in unison as this copy of himself is made, and he'll like project part of his spirit into this thing. I'm casting spiritual weapon. Was this basically like spirit form of me with a spiritual spear will come into being, using the good and the light and the dark in my soul to reflect into these two separate beings, which will then strike at this creature for an 18.
Yeah, that'll hit. And dang, take inspiration, because that was just rad.
Thank you. So this is going to be what sort of damage is it? It'll be 8 force damage as the spiritual projection of myself will strike at it with this spear made of smoke and flame.
The creature is pushed back a step from the blow from the second you. It looks between the two of you, and as it raises its claws to strike at you, the real you, there is a sudden burst of light that comes swooping down in between the pair of you. A great snowy owl gleaming. It comes, and as its wings brush you, you feel warmth and light and hope. Jeff, you're going to regain 7 hit points. as this owl comes in and it circles around the dream devourer. The creature makes one attack up towards this owl, but the owl swoops out of range. What is your AC, Jeff?
15.
Okay, this will just barely hit with the second claw. That will do 6 damage. Spear that sings, you come upon this scene. You see this creature. You see the glimmering luminescent owl. And you see Black Owl, wounded, but standing.
Usually Spear that Sings would be in a different form, but he's a man now, and he runs as fast as his legs will carry him. And he like shakes his medicine shield, which seems like a flimsy thing, unless you're dealing with spirits, and he like shakes it in a sort of rhythm, and he like lets out a war whoop. He's going to cast Shillelagh, and then I'm going to try and just interpose myself between Black Owl and this thing.
Yes, you put yourself in between. And now the Dream Devourer has its eyes on you. Black Owl, it seems that help has arrived. But still this creature stands.
Part of his brain wants to think like there's no way another person could be here in this place, like this must be another trick. But then he sees who it is, that it's Spear that Sings, and somehow there must be some connection that allows this to happen, and he won't for now question it. And there will be like a flash as this like copy version of him will like jump and then like swoop into like an owl that'll like pass through himself with like this burst of color and light. Like the fire is changing from just like a red into like this strange mixture of purples and pinks. As some of this like shadowy claw region marks from this being will begin to like be fought back by the spiritual power that's been bestowed in this secondary version of himself. I'm going to use my primary action to cast a Cure Wounds on me. Gain back a couple of hit points, and then as the spiritual owl like swoops through me, this burst of color, pushing back some of the shadow, it'll then like land back next to Spear that Sings, burst back into like a human shape of himself, lashing up with this spiritual spear. As a bonus action, I'll use another attack with a spiritual weapon, which will be a 21 to hit for 10 force damage.
The thing stumbles backwards, this time snarling and screeching. You weren't sure what kind of a noise it would make, but it sounds both like a rattlesnake and a roar and a hiss and a cat. All these things in one. Stands fast. You have been walking. The antler around your neck. And you see now, up ahead, a fight which looks to be a deadly one. You recognize a Dream Devourer. You're not sure if you are seeing its true form because of the gift from the elk, or because that's what it is showing to these men. One of them looks like he might even be from your tribe. He has the bearing. The other you do not recognize, though he fights with the grace of a cougar. You will be there next round. Rushing Crow, you have been moving across land and water easily. Your feet light, perhaps even taking the stream as if it were a path. And now that stream carries you, and you see your friends, the ones you have traveled with, the ones you have sought. You're not certain if they are real, but you know you will reach them soon. You too will be there next round. Spear that sings, it is your turn.
He'll like leap from foot to foot in a sort of like medicine dance, banging this like shining club against his medicine shield, and like singing a chant to get this thing to look at him and like try and get its attention. I'm just going to take the dodge action and hope that it attacks me.
It most certainly does. You are in front of it. You have the shield with this paint, the eyes and the face on it. It draws the ire of this creature. Will a 19 hit?
I'm dodging, yeah. Just
Okay, yeah. Oh, you avoided a crit with the... So it's a 19 to hit actually both times. But
yeah.
you avoided a crit.
Yep, those both hit.
You'll take 12 damage total as these things' claws strike into you, cutting you deep. As with Black Owl, the blood that oozes from it is darker than it should be, as if the wound is already poisoned. Black Owl, it is your turn.
Black Owl, after like the moment of panic and surprise, has kind of subsided now. His thoughts are becoming more and more clear, more focused. The words of his teacher echoing in his mind, stabbing at him like a knife, given what he's just done or what he would have done if it were real. But nonetheless, he will remember one of the lessons that his teacher taught him about spirits like this. And he will kind of reach down at this spear that he has, and like the other shape of him will like turn back briefly to an owl, fly back and like land next to him, and like both simultaneously begin like this dance and chant. And so like command this evil spirit to move away from them and to shriek away into as light will like burst away from him. I'm going to use my channel divinity here. So this thing is going to need to make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay, wisdom save. Ooh, that is a 19 on the die. The +1 to wisdom, so 20 total.
Okay, so it'll succeed, obviously, but it'll still take some effect.
Okay.
So it'll be this like huge like sunburst of light that'll like burst off of them. This creature will be like pushed back just a step, but it'll be able to like resist actually being pushed away far enough to make a mechanical difference, and it'll still take 5 radiant damage as this like sunburst of spiritual energy will explode off. And then in another swoop, the spiritual form that accompanies me will swoop back in next to it, lashing back out with the spear as it turns back into a man, as all bonus action to attack with my spiritual weapon, which will be an 18 for 8 force damage.
The creature is briefly blinded by this light, and it screeches again, that cacophony of noise. fear that sings.
He's going to sort of the club that he has a little piece of leather at the bottom. He like swings it around to gain some speed, and he's going to then try and swing it at this thing for a 19 all up to hit.
Absolutely.
Excellent. That's going to be 9 magical bludgeoning damage.
There should be a satisfying crunch as hard as you forced the club into this creature, and it certainly wails in pain. But in spite of its appearance, it is not flesh and bone, although it seems to be hurting. Stands fast. You have reached the conflict.
So as she's approaching, she would be readying her bow, pulling out an arrow, and stopping at about 60 feet away from the combat, the fight that's going on. And she would plant her feet and start chanting, barely above a whisper. And as she's chanting, this black mist kind of forms and flows from her mouth straight to the creature that's fighting these 2 men, and brands it with a picture of a black elk. And I've just cast Hunter's Mark. Then she's going to loose an arrow straight for the creature. 14.
14 is the magic number.
Perfect. Oh, hey. That would be 6 points of piercing. Rolled very poorly on that.
The arrow catches this creature unawares in its back. And again, this screech otherworldly of pain and rage. It had thought it found an easy target, but it seems that Black Owl is not alone. The Dream Devourer will take its turn to do something that you guys don't see, don't understand, as it kind of is wreathed in this dark glow. And then it is Rushing Crow's turn.
The words soar swiftly running through his mind as he hurries, as you say, setting up the flecks of water from the surface of the stream as he speeds along it. As his feet make landfall, he's going to channel the fear he has experienced, the confusion, the conviction and assurance of the spirit raven into a war yell. Assuming that he could reach the combat this turn.
Absolutely.
Entirely. He's going to leap into the air with Grandmother Spider's gift raised, and he'll bring it down for a 26 to hit.
Oh, that'll hit.
And it'll be 5 bludgeoning damage and 2 radiant.
Ouch. This Dream Devourer does not see you coming, nor does it anticipate such a powerful weapon. Rushing Crow, please describe how you kill this Dream Devourer.
The club comes down with a crush on the kind of back of its neck, but it's the light that sends out almost like a spider web in the first morning frost that shimmers through the air quickly before there's an explosion of white light. And I guess, well, I don't know if it's still there or not, but a shattering sound, shall we say.
There's a noise that sounds like pottery breaking on rock. And then shadow shatters like ice. And the creature disappears. Shards of shadow carried on whatever small breeze there is, completely destroyed.
Spirit of Things will like crouch low and make sure that the thing is really gone, and he'll like heft the club in his hand and like wait a few moments, sort of crouching to see if anything rematerializes.
Yeah, Black Owl will remain similarly cautious for a moment, knowing that tricks are natural to these sorts of spirits, that deception is how they operate, and that it's how they best hunt. So he would be worried that this thing was not gone, but only seemed to be gone. But would kind of look around and see the other three now gathered around him. And in the middle of the caution would find a muster, who would muster up the ability to give a nod of thanks and appreciation. He'd like make eye contact with each one of you individually. And after a time, seeing the thing still not back, would like breathe a heavy sigh. As he finally like lets his guard down. The spiritual version of himself that he had projected will like like burst back into him with like a flash of light before vanishing. That part of his spirit becoming part of the whole again. And he'll just like drop to a knee, breathing heavily.
We are not in Second World.
I think you are right. I don't know when we transitioned to this place. It's not normally so easy to find your way here accidentally. It seems we have.
I've never been here. I don't like it.
It's not a place you should wander without a guide, without the utmost caution. Like look around and like see this environment that he doesn't know. I have been to this world before, but not to this place. Do not know where we are.
The great owl flutters and hovers near you, Black Owl. It will swoop, circling the four of you, and then come to land. It turns its head the way owls do, too far to see you all. And then its avian gaze turns upon Black Owl. You succumbed.
Like I'll like shake his head. Shame will like wash over him. He'll become flushed with it. His like grip will tighten. His hand will clench.
You are not alone.
I like look around to the others and just kind of give a deep nod. Not for them, I would be lost. Gone forever in this place.
Hold out your arm, Black Owl.
There'll be this nag in the back of its head, like this is another trick. Don't do it. Don't fall for it again. It knew your weakness the first time and it knows it now again. But just as the first time, he fell to the deepest fear in himself of losing this that he has now. That same fear will still be present. This time with a hint of trust, hoping that this image of his friends who have come to help him is not a great deception, but in fact is truly the spirits that have sent them to his aid. And that small bit of hope will win out and he'll reach his hand up.
The owl flaps its great wings, and it comes to rest on your forearm, the talons piercing into your skin. It perches there, and your arm quavers underneath the weight. It looks at you with great golden eyes. You are not alone, and as long as you are not alone, you will not succumb. The owl pushes off, and your arm is forced down to your side. You look down to the markings, and they seem to not be bleeding. They are bright red and white. And you feel that there is some power within them.
And he'll look down at his arm and he'll feel this, the blessing of this spirit that's now comes over him and feel its power. And this small bit of shame from before will still linger in him. He failed the challenge. What right does he have to the blessings of the spirits when clearly he's failed them? He's failed himself and his teacher, and it doesn't feel right for this marking to be there after all that, for him to get a boon despite all his shortcomings and his failings. But there on his arm, it still is, and nothing will change that, and he accepts it.
She who stands fast. You look at these three men, perhaps boys, but you watch them and you are remembering dreams that you've had. It seems difficult because it felt as though you had walked for years in this place. You look at your hand, and as you hold it up to the bright, light sky, you see through it, like sunlight shining through a leaf of a tree. And you feel that your spirit is somehow dimming here in this place. But you look at these three, and you are reminded of what you were doing before, and of who they must be.
Stands fast, would slowly approach the three. Her bow at her side. And as she gets close, she would say, I know you. I have seen you three. But I don't know you. How come you to be here?
I haven't seen you. Are you a spirit? I'm kind of like look around in this place that they are, like not sure.
And at that, she would re-look at her hand and the fact that it's fading. And then look to Black Owl and say, I might be. I am not sure.
The man spoke of her.
Yeah, he'll like shake his head like it feels like it was so long ago. Like it's like almost a different life that happened in after all that's happened. Yes. Yes. He told us to find you.
As I look at them, do they look like they are fading as well?
They look as though they're beginning to, just the slightest bit. The ends of Spear That Sings hair and the tip of Black Owl's fingers are just beginning to be the tiniest bit translucent.
I do not know what brought us here, but I think we need to hurry. I am fading, and I see you guys are starting to.
How do we leave this place? Can we walk to the edge?
Jeff, roll me Arcana.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in such a place, but never with others.
That is a 10 on the die, so 13 all up.
If you were by yourself, you would go through a ritual, perhaps, or simply choose to wake from such a dream. But you're not certain that you even could, that they could. Perhaps they do not even have the training for such a thing.
Would I have even the slightest idea, stories, rumors, anything like that, that would tell me in this sort of situation, like how you can get people out of the first world when they are not supposed to be there?
There is a story. There's a story of Red Hawk, who entered the dreams, who sought first world within them, who became lost. Three spirits found him and spoke to him, each offering a way to escape. The rattlesnake said, "Let me bite you, and you will die, and you will return home." The crocodile said, "Let me eat you, and you will die, and you will return home." And at last the eagle said, "Try to fly, and you will die, and you will return home." And Red Hawk knew that all three spirits could not give him the same answer if it were not the truth. So he went to the top of the highest cliff, and he soared as an eagle. And when the ground rose up to meet him, he awoke.
Black Owl, as he's recalled the stories, will look to the others, like at Spear that Sings, who's asked this question. Those who come here by choice with the proper training, you can simply wake up as if pinching yourself from a dream. Fear that is not the case with us. We did not come here by choice, did not follow the proper channels, the proper rituals. It will be more difficult. And then he'll tell that story to everybody.
As he's telling it, Spirit that Sings is like pinching himself, just in case that works. But he's like listening and he's like watching, but he's still like pinching his skin. Then we must die.
The final escape, the one path back. That's all there is. There is no other way to release your spirit from this world back to the other. I hope the stories are true. He'll say with like a shudder and a nervous laugh.
I do not like this story. What if it is not true?
Spirit that Sings' face changes, like he didn't consider that to be a possibility. And he's like, "Oh." And he just kind of frowns a little bit, now worried that he might actually die.
If it is not true, then you will die. But the alternative, and I'll kind of like motion to this like vast expanse of nothing that surrounds them. You'll wander here, restless, until you disappear anyways. wandering forever the plains of the spirit world until insanity grips you. You fade into nothing, die a death of a different sort. Either choice is to choose death.
Black Owl, what is your passive perception?
It's pretty good. It's 15.
You think back to where you were before. You remember seeing the physical form of she who stands fast. And yet her spirit is here, and it is fading. There is something unusual about it.
He'll look, kind of the realization finally hitting him, with the gravitas that it deserves, and he'll look over. How did you come to this place? You know how we did, at least I think that I might. But I saw you before we were here, at least your body. And now your spirit here, same as ours, but far more faded.
I approached a strange man who was chanting and burning some sweet-smelling herbs. And before I knew it, we were attacked. This warrior jumped out and hit my mentor, collapsed to the ground, and then I woke here.
River Runs Red. That was his name.
Black Owl will nod as if he was about to say or ask the same thing. And Black Owl will describe River Runs Red just to ensure that they are in fact talking about the same person.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, Black Owl will kind of frown and grimace a bit. That warrior is dead. We killed him. For what
We
seemed like a
killed.
second time. I'll kind of shake at the thought of it.
He was dead a long time, I think. We killed whatever controlled him.
And
Put him to
yet
rest.
you are here. What happened?
The same sensation that you've described is what happened to us. That man, his strange rituals, his chanting, the sight of fire, the smell of herbs. The chanting grew, then it clapped like thunder. Darkness hit. I woke here on my own. Was set upon by that thing before these others came to join me. And then you.
Black Owl, when you have come to such a place of your own volition, you have at times been able to sit, to meditate, to hear through your body's ears and see through your eyes what is left behind. You don't know if it would work now, but it might.
Yeah, the memory will like come back into his mind, as if by surprise, like it leapt out at him from the shadows, and he'll remember. If you give me a moment, silence, to meditate, reach out to the spirits, may be able to commune with this place, to sense further. Not sure if it will work, given that I did not come here in the way that I normally do. But perhaps that may be the only and best option. Like without even necessarily waiting for a response from everybody, he'll like sit down, um, cross-legged, and begin like whispering this chant. Close his eyes, kind of repeat this um mantra in a language that doesn't even seem to be a language, but somehow seems to make sense anyways.
Roll Arcana with advantage since you've done this before.
Spirit that sings looks at Rushing Crow and says, sort of quietly as Black Owl is working, if you have to go, I would jump from something high. Flying, even for a short time, enjoyable.
Yeah, he nods as you say this because he's had the similar idea of all the options. If he has to die, yeah, he's to do it soaring.
Wow. Well done. Black Owl, you sit and you tune out everything around you. You focus only on the words and on the feeling, this thin thread that connects your spirit to your body. You begin to follow it, and it twists and turns, and it seems to be in knots and entangles. You did not lay such a thread, but you can follow it back. You find your body lying still. You cannot move it. You hear the chanting, deep and profane. And with your eyes that are still in the spirit realm, in the dream realm, you see a second thread from your body going into these red crystals that this man chants over. You see a thread from Spear that sings, from She Who Stands Fast, and from Rushing Crow. And you know he is unraveling your spirit, stealing it, and using it for some dark, dangerous, and evil ritual.
Yeah, the realization falls on him. He'll feel like that sickening grasp in the pit of his stomach as he like comes to terms with what he's seeing and with what he even understands. if you can even properly ever understand something like that happening to you. And I'll kind of look for a moment in horror, in shock upon seeing it, but then quickly know that this cannot be allowed to finish. That if they do, their very being will end, not just their physical body, even their spirit itself will go. There will be nothing left of them. It will be as if they were never there. I'm going to follow this thread back, and I'll see them. Like, he knows that it likely isn't this simple, but the first thing that he would even think, he'll reach down into his pouch and pull out this ritual dagger that he's used for many things, and will just feebly, desperately just attempt to literally cut the thread from Spear That Sings, who would be the first person next to him, and see if the thread is cut or not, or if it will require much more than that to undo this spell.
You cannot undo it.
I think Spirit That Sings looks at you like swinging a knife around with no explanation. But thinks medicine men are weird and they do weird things, and he's not going to make a big deal about it. He's seen them do things like this before. So he just tries to stand still so he doesn't accidentally get cut.
I imagine there's this very uncomfortable sensation of seeing this person with their eyes closed, swinging sharp weapons around, and it's probably very jarring. But after the first attempt fails, he'll stow the blade away, knowing that it will take more than that to undo this. And then he'll try to figure out some other way.
How do we get back? Did we try it? How will we know if it works?
There is no way to know if it will work. It is the great wall beyond which no eyes can see, no hand can feel. The only way to know if it will work is to do it and see if it works.
Together then?
And Black Owl will bite nervously at his lip, but then nod. Cannot stay. That man, he tugs at the strings of our spirits. They become fully unraveled. Will be an end far worse than death. Nothing will remain, no body, but also no spirit. There'll be nothing to pass on, nothing to go further. It'll be as if we were never here.
If we face him again, what's to stop him just sending us back here?
Black Owl will just shake his head, desperately reaching for an answer that's not there.
We need to strike
no.
swiftly then, before he knows we're back.
We had a couple moments before when we first saw him and heard the chanting. We did not make it to him in time, but perhaps preparation and knowledge. If our return to our bodies is successful, perhaps we can surprise him. We can stop the chant, even for just a moment. He will not be able to weave the threads.
All right, let's go. He looks around and probably really conveniently, or too conveniently, sort of as if it was always there, or it appeared when he needed it. there's like a high place near that he can see where one could fly, maybe for a few minutes.
At the very least, it would be better to go of our own volition than to sit here and be unraveled. At best, we will see each other on the other side. And he'll set towards it with a grim resolution.
At worst, flying is joyful, he'll say to the other two, and then follow Black Owl.
She who stands fast, just look over at Rushing Crow. Not say anything, but nod and follow those two.
Rushing Crow will give you a nod in return and spend a moment longer looking at this high place that will be the perch they will launch themselves from, and then follow suit.
The four of you begin to climb. First walking easily and then, yes, climbing. It is steep, but the handholds come easily and you do not run out of breath. There is no sweat upon your brow, nor do your fingers catch and bleed at the rocks. And when you reach the highest place, you see an eagle sitting upon a nest, looking at you with sharp eyes. Those who come this high seek only to fly.
Better to try and to fall than to never know what it is like. Know what might lie, if only you can make it into the air.
We can't linger here. It's not a place for us.
Where do you fly to? To whom do you fly?
To our world.
Back
Home.
to ourselves.
If you stayed, I could teach you to fly, to truly soar. Why would you go now?
If we stay, we will be undone. It is that simple. Spirits have much to teach, but we have not the time to learn. Not now. Not yet.
They offer with forked tongue always, and he'll take a step forward and like push, sort of like not too gently, Black Owl back away from this eagle, and he'll like begin like walking back away from it and like give it this look. We will fly of our own volition.
Fly then, if that is what you wish. But beware the viper. To look in the viper's eye is to fall under its spell. The eagle will take off, almost taunting you as it soars.
Stands
There's no
fast.
time for the... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, stands fast, would look at the two, all three of you together,
There's no time for the riddles of spirits. We have greater task at hand, greater stakes. Yes, I'm ready. I'll take a couple steps, slowly but firmly towards the edge of the cliff, looking straight out and up, never down.
Spirit that Sings seems unafraid, like he has done this before, although usually he has turned into an eagle halfway down. But he's not afraid of heights, and he'll walk to the edge, unafraid.
Stands Fast would step to the side of Black Owl and look at him. I am ready.
For the shortest of times, there's a flash of light that will surround Black Owl, this shape of the owl, the spiritual owl that had come to him before, that will almost seem as if to give him wings. It will fade as quickly as it came, and it'll just look to the others, give one last nod before using his foot at the edge of the cliff to push himself outwards, upwards. He'll reach his arms up as if they could bring him to fly. Though they can't. He'll try anyways, believing as if he could.
Spirit that Sings will follow, standing at the edge for a second and closing his eyes. He'll then squat down and jump, unafraid, until he realizes that he's falling and that he's not going to save himself. You feel the air whip around him. He closes his eyes and thinks of Silent Step.
Stands Fast would look over to Rushing Crow just moments before Black Owl would have jumped. Catching his eye, she would almost jump split second after Black Owl did, closing her eyes as she falls.
Yeah, and barefoot on the cliff, Russian Crow curls his toes around the edge as his feet kiss the land before he launches himself, much like all those years ago when he leapt from the cliff into the pools below.
The four of you are flying. It is, for a moment, glorious. And then there's the realization that you are not truly flying, but falling. The cliffside is rushing past you. The air is loud in your ears. And the strange colored ground is rising faster and faster and faster to meet you. Do you close your eyes or do you keep them open?
Mine are closed.
Spirit that Sings as well. He has his eyes closed and he's thinking of Silent Step. And doesn't want his last moments of her to be a vision of her being wounded. He thinks of her smile instead and closes his eyes.
A Russian Crow will keep his eyes open as long as he can until the kind of wind against his face forces him shut.
Black Owl will turn himself so that as he falls, he does not fall face downwards, but face up, looking up into the sunless sky where the great owl had flown away from him, off into nothing. And his eyes will fixate on that same point, looking forever up, as if to fly, though he does not, and will continue to look.
You see the eagle high above you. The rest of you have your eyes closed when it happens. You wake up, a gasping breath. You hear chanting in your ears. You smell again the sharp and sweet herbs, the smoke wafting through this clearing. You have survived for the moment. And I think that's as good a place to end it. It's getting kind of late, and we'll pick up there next session. Thanks for playing, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey.
Yeah. Cool, we're done. I can get my mouse to work and hit the button.